Have you ever witnessed a miracle? The Bible is full of such stories, tales that remind us of the awesome power of God. But these miracles aren't just ancient history, they hold profound lessons for us today, especially when it comes to the power of faith. When we dare to believe, when we place our trust in God's goodness, we open ourselves up to experiencing the miraculous in our own lives. The Bible tells us that faith can move mountains, and while we may not face literal mountains, we all encounter obstacles in our lives. Their stories, intertwined in a powerful narrative, offer a timeless message of hope and the transformative power of unwavering faith. Imagine the scene, a bustling crowd pressing in on Jesus, eager to hear his words, desperate for his touch. Among them were two individuals whose lives were about to intersect in a profound way. Jairus, a synagogue leader, a man of status and respect, yet consumed with fear and worry for his gravely ill daughter. And a nameless woman, ostracized by society due to her chronic bleeding, her hope dwindling with each passing day. Their stories, though different in their circumstances, share a common thread, a deep longing for healing, a desperate need for a miracle. Their encounters with the Son of God would not only change their lives forever, but would also serve as an enduring inspiration for generations to come. Jairus, a man of considerable standing in the community, swallowed his pride as he pushed through the throng of people surrounding Jesus. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat a painful reminder of his daughter's fading life. Reaching the periphery of the crowd, he saw the source of their hope, the one they called Rabbi, Teacher, Healer. Jairus, his heart heavy with grief and desperation, fell at Jesus' feet. "Teacher," Jairus choked out, his voice thick with emotion. "My little daughter, she lies at the point of death. I beg you, come and lay your hands on her that she may be healed and that she may live." The crowd, moved by the raw emotion in Jairus' voice, seemed to hold their breath collectively, their anticipation palpable. Jesus, his gaze filled with compassion, looked down at the distraught father kneeling before him. "Get up," Jesus said gently, reaching out a hand to help Jairus to his feet. "Come," Jesus continued, his voice firm yet soothing, "I will go with you." Relief washed over Jairus, so profound it threatened to buckle his knees. The crowd, buzzing with excitement, parted to create a path for Jesus and Jairus. Each step towards his home was a step closer to a miracle, a step closer to the possibility of seeing his daughter's eyes sparkle with life once more. Their journey was not a solitary one. The crowd, caught up in the emotion of the moment, followed closely behind, their anticipation growing with each step. Whispers of hope and expectation rippled through the throng. Jairus, acutely aware of the throng trailing behind them, felt a surge of gratitude for their silent support. As they navigated the dusty streets, Jairus' mind raced. He would place his trust in Jesus, the one they called Messiah, the one who held the power of life and death in his hands. As Jesus, followed by his disciples and a growing crowd, made his way towards Jairus' house, a woman, bent over with years of suffering, saw a flicker of hope. For 12 long years, she had endured a debilitating condition, her body racked with constant bleeding. News of Jesus' miracles had reached her ears, whispers of his healing touch, his ability to make the lame walk, the blind see, and the sick regain their health. Could this Jesus, this miracle worker, heal her too? Could he break the chains of her affliction and restore her to wholeness? She knew that her condition rendered her unclean, that to touch another person, even brush against their clothing, would be considered a defilement. If I can just touch the edge of his cloak, she thought, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and anticipation, I know I will be healed. As Jesus passed by, the woman, summoning all her strength, surged forward. Reaching out a trembling hand, she grazed the fringe of his cloak, a touch so light, so fleeting, that it went unnoticed by those around her. But in that instant, something extraordinary happened. A surge of power, warm and vibrant, flowed through her body. The constant bleeding, the source of her shame and isolation for so long, ceased instantly. She had touched Jesus, and in that simple act of faith, she had received her miracle. Jesus, though seemingly unaware of the woman's touch, felt a surge of power leave him. "Who touched me?" he asked, his voice gentle yet firm, cutting through the murmur of the crowd. The disciples, puzzled by his question, looked at each other in confusion. The woman, realizing that her act of faith had not gone unnoticed, trembled with a mixture of fear and awe. "It was I, Lord," she confessed, her voice barely a whisper. "I touched your cloak, and I have been healed." The crowd, their attention now focused on the woman kneeling before Jesus, gasped in astonishment. Jesus, looking down at the trembling figure at his feet, saw not an unclean woman but a daughter of faith, her heart overflowing with gratitude. "Daughter," he said, his voice filled with warmth and affirmation, "your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." The woman, her eyes filled with tears of gratitude, rose to her feet, her body no longer bent over with pain but standing tall, radiating newfound strength and wholeness. Jairus, witnessing this unexpected detour, this remarkable display of Jesus' power and compassion, felt a surge of hope course through him. If Jesus could heal this woman, this stranger in the crowd, surely he could also heal his daughter. The journey to his house continued, now imbued with a deeper sense of anticipation, a shared belief that they were about to witness another extraordinary display of God's grace. As Jesus addressed the woman, acknowledging her faith and proclaiming her healing, a hush fell over the crowd. A sense of awe filled the air, a palpable awareness of the divine power that had just been displayed. But in the midst of this joyful interlude, a messenger, his face etched with sorrow, pushed his way through the throng. "Sir," the servant said, his voice heavy with grief, "there is no need to trouble the teacher any further. Your daughter is dead." The words, stark and final, pierced Jairus' heart like a dagger. Jairus, reeling from the devastating news, felt his knees buckle. Jesus, sensing Jairus' anguish, turned to him, his gaze filled with compassion and unwavering strength. "Don't be afraid," he said, his voice a calm amidst the storm of emotions swirling around them. "Just believe." Those three words, "just believe," hung in the air, a lifeline thrown to a drowning man. Jairus clung to Jesus' words as a man clinging to a raft in a stormy sea. "Just believe," Jesus had said. His daughter, his precious little girl, was gone. Yet Jesus' quiet confidence sparked hope within Jairus' soul. This rabbi who spoke with authority had promised to help. Could his daughter truly live again? Jairus saw unwavering compassion in Jesus' eyes. He chose to silence doubt and cling to hope. He would trust in the one who had power over life and death. As Jesus and Jairus approached the house, the air grew thick with the palpable weight of grief. The sound of wailing mourners reached their ears even before they crossed the threshold. Stepping into the courtyard, they were met with a scene of chaotic mourning. The house, once filled with laughter, was now shrouded in sorrow. Jairus clung to Jesus' hand, seeking strength in his calm presence. Jesus, seeing the mourners, felt a profound sense of compassion well up within him. With a gentle but firm voice, Jesus addressed the mourners. "Why all this commotion and wailing? The child is not dead but asleep." His words were met with disbelief and scorn. They had seen the child, felt the coldness of her skin. Yet Jairus clung to Jesus' words as a man clinging to hope in a storm. Ignoring the skeptical murmurs and the renewed wailing of the mourners, Jesus, accompanied by his disciples, Jairus and the child's parents, entered the room where the girl lay. The room, dimly lit and heavy with the scent of incense, was a sanctuary of sorrow. The girl, her face pale and serene, lay on a mat on the floor, her small body shrouded in a white linen cloth. Jesus approached the girl, his movements deliberate and filled with purpose. The crowd, their skepticism momentarily forgotten, watched in hushed anticipation, their gazes fixed on the unfolding scene. Reaching out a hand, Jesus gently took the girl's hand, his touch radiating a warmth that seemed to defy the coldness of death. "Talitha cum," he spoke, his voice resonating with a power that transcended language. The words, Aramaic for little girl, "I say to you, get up," hung in the air, a command that echoed with divine authority. In that instant, a miracle unfolded before their very eyes. The girl's eyelids fluttered open, revealing eyes that shone with life and recognition. Color returned to her cheeks. Her lips curved into a gentle smile, and her small hand, a moment ago cold and lifeless, squeezed Jesus' hand in response. The room, filled with grief, erupted in gasps of astonishment and cries of joyous disbelief. The mourners, their wailing silenced, stared in wide-eyed wonder. The girl sat up, her gaze shifting from Jesus to her parents, a mixture of confusion and delight. Jairus and his wife, overwhelmed with joy, rushed to their daughter's side. They embraced her tightly, their hearts overflowing with love. Jesus, smiling gently, watched the family reunion with quiet satisfaction. Turning to the crowd, Jesus instructed them to give the girl something to eat. The room buzzed with excited chatter as they rushed to fulfill his command. The stories of Jairus and the bleeding woman stand as timeless testaments to the unwavering power of faith. These individuals, facing insurmountable obstacles, dared to believe in the impossible, unlocking God's miraculous power. Faith is an active force connecting us to the divine, tapping into boundless possibilities. Jairus humbled himself before Jesus, trusting him to heal his dying daughter. His faith paved the way for a miraculous resurrection. The bleeding woman believed a touch of Jesus' garment could heal her. Her faith broke through barriers, ushering in divine intervention. These stories challenge us to examine our own faith. Do we believe God can move mountains in our lives? Or do we let fear and doubt hold us back from His power? Faith is the key that unlocks God's heart, allowing His grace and power to flow into our lives. While the stories of Jairus and the bleeding woman inspire us to embrace the power of faith, they also highlight the obstacles that can hinder our prayers. Fear, doubt, impatience, and unbelief can act as roadblocks, preventing our prayers from reaching their intended destination. The Bible tells us to cast all your anxiety on Him because He cares for you. When we surrender our fears to God, replacing them with His promises, we create space for faith to flourish. We are reminded that He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion. The stories of Jairus and the bleeding woman are powerful illustrations of faith. Living a life of faith means trusting God and seeing the world through His promises. It's about letting go of control and surrendering to His will, knowing that we are not alone, but guided by God. Living a life of faith is facing challenges with the belief that God is bigger. It's about deepening our dependence on Him and experiencing His faithfulness. We live by faith, not by sight, trusting His heart. The stories of Jairus and the bleeding woman, though spoken centuries ago, still resonate with a profound power. These accounts of faith remind us that God's power is as real today as it was in the time of Jesus. Picture the woman, ostracized and broken by years of suffering, daring to believe that even a touch could bring her healing. Their stories are living testimonies to the timeless truth that faith has the power to unlock the miraculous. What miracle are you believing for today? Is it the healing of a physical ailment, the restoration of a broken relationship, or the provision for a seemingly insurmountable financial need? Whatever your mountain, whatever challenge looms large in your life, remember the lessons of Jairus and the bleeding woman. God is still in the miracle-working business, and your faith has the power to unlock His blessings. It begins with a simple choice, a decision to shift your focus from the problem to the promise, from the waves of doubt to the solid rock of God's faithfulness. It's about choosing to see your situation through the lens of His Word, reminding yourself of His promises and declaring His victory over your circumstances. Don't allow fear to cripple you, whispering lies that your situation is hopeless, that God is distant or unconcerned. Remember, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. He is with you in the midst of your storm, ready to calm the winds and waves when you call upon His name. Step out in faith, even if it's just a mustard seed's worth. Reach out to Him in prayer, pouring out your heart to the one who knows your every need before you even ask, and then stand firm in your faith, refusing to be moved by what you see or feel in the natural realm. Remember, faith is not a one-time event, it's a journey, a lifelong adventure of trusting God and walking in obedience to His Word. There will be moments of doubt, times when the weight of your circumstances threatens to overwhelm you, but in those moments, choose to fix your eyes on Jesus, the author and finisher of your faith. He is your anchor in the storm, your source of strength when you feel weak, your ever-present help in times of need. Cling to His promises, meditate on His Word, and surround yourself with a community of faith that will lift you up in prayer and encourage you along the way. As you continue on this journey of faith, remember that God is not obligated to work within the confines of your timeline or expectations. His ways are higher than our ways, and His timing is always perfect. Don't grow weary in doing good, for in due season you will reap a harvest if you do not give up. The stories of Jairus and the bleeding woman are not just ancient tales of miracles. They are invitations to step into a life of faith, a life where the impossible becomes possible, where mountains move at the command of a faithful God, and where hope reigns eternal. Your journey begins now. Dare to believe.